So, episode number 2.
Number 2. So where did we last leave off? Babies in hospital, I think.
We were talking about babies in hospital, and we were going to talk about sleep depravation, but did we?
Were.
What are we going to try and talk
about today? Let's just pick up where we left off. You know, you were talking about how babies are set up for failure in hospital, and you know, what do you have to say about that? We were talking about feeding.
We were talking about breastfeeding. I'm sure we'll get taken off the air because we've broken the rules already. How many rules are we going to break? Like, I'm sure that there's a rule out there that you're not actually allowed to say that it's okay to use infant formula.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
It is
but
weird.
Anyway, we were talking about, you know, why are babies in special care different? And why are people... And we were also talking, like, one of the points I really want to get across in the book is, one of my pet hates is... Now, let me ask you a question first, before I go into what my pet hates are, okay? So that I don't influence your answer. Okay. Let's pretend I'm a random person on the street, and I come up to you and I say, I heard you use Tizzie Hall with the boys.
Yes.
Did you?
Well, yes. Yeah, I did. But not initially. From 5 months, I started using...
So you didn't from day one? Did you use Tizzie Hall from day one?
No, sorry. No, I did not.
Okay, explain.
Well, I didn't know you existed, to be honest. I didn't know about the book or yourself. I wasn't a mum until I was a mum, and it's a shame. And I feel like I wish that every woman left home from hospital with a copy of your book, really. But no, I didn't know.
Can I interrupt you there for 1 second? They're not allowed.
Yeah, of course they're not.
No, do you know why? Because I broke the rules.
I know.
No, do you? How did I break the rules?
It's got to be your bedding, is it?
No. I put a chapter in the book, how to bottle feed. You're not allowed to do that. So if the book didn't have a chapter in it on how to bottle feed, I could probably even put a free sample of the book into the bounty bag. But because I dared to help mothers feed their baby from bottles or formula, there's a chapter in the book, I'm sure there is, called How to Bottle Feed.
Okay.
Yeah? And whether it's a full chapter or whether it's just a section, so that's not allowed. So are things feeding in the first 2 weeks? It's not a full chapter, but it's in there. Okay, so so that's why not allowed. Anyhow, so back to you.
So I started at 5 months, and it was a friend of mine just sent me the bedding guide.
So can I now ask you, and then you came and you saw me at the hub, and we had the lovely hub, and we'll go into that in more detail in other... because otherwise we're going to spend way too much time chit-chatting, and we're trying not to. We're trying to get to the nitty-gritty of the book, and we only got to the first few paragraphs in the last episode. So, baby number 3. So if you missed the first episode, Zoe has a mum of 2 boys, Sid and Otto. She says they were born at 25 and a half weeks. I said they were born at 25 weeks and 3 days, because I counted the days in all my pregnancies. Because I had pregnancies that got to like 22 weeks, you know, so this is like 25 weeks and 3 days. To me, it's just such a milestone, and they're alive and they're good and they're healthy. And,
they are.
Right. Now you've got number 3 in your tummy.
Cooking.
What are you going to do at number 3? When are you going to start the book?
Oh, yeah, immediately. Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Because I know it works. I believe in it. I don't know, and I know what you're saying. You don't understand why others wouldn't start from birth.
What I was
if you know about the book, I don't know why you wouldn't start from birth. I'd love to know. Can you let us know?
So people say that they've got the book. I've got the book. I'm going to start it at 6 weeks. I've got the book. I'm going to start it at 2 months. Now, the real roots of sleep are if a baby is well fed and warm, they sleep. And loved. But unloved?
Yes.
No, but my babies were in incubators and they were well fed and they were warm. Did they know they were loved? Like, yes, loved, yes, it's important. And people say to me, oh, you can't follow Save Our Sleep and Love Your Babies. But really, no. So I had babies in Romania in orphanages, which is now called Moldova. They didn't know that they were loved. I loved them, but I couldn't love all of them at once. But they were well fed and warm and they slept.
Sure.
So I'm not saying... You know what I'm not saying, and I am saying. But anyway, well fed and warm and loved, they sleep.
They do.
So why, so if you have a baby and it's born and you feed it pretty much straight away, one thing I love about my feeding book, so we've got Save Our Sleep Feeding, it's got the wrong cover on it because it looks like it's a It looks like it's a book about solids. Can you see it? It's there. It looks like it's a book about solids, but it's a 60% of it's breastfeeding.
Yeah.
It says when your baby's born, put them on your tummy and let them crawl up.
Yeah, I love that idea.
And when they crawl up, find the boob.
Yeah.
And I've wanted to do that, but I didn't get to do it because I had C-sections and complications. But I love that in the feeding book. The feeding book is like 60%, and then people say, oh, I wish I'd had the feeding book. We need to change the cover, but I'm not allowed to change the cover because the cover belongs to the publisher, and they don't want a breast or a bottle on the cover.
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, I photoshopped it on the website. It looks much better. So you have this baby, and if it's fed well, and then it's got the correct. Now in the hospital they cocoon them, so they take the baby, and this is a full-term baby. We're talking about your new baby who's going to be pretty close to full term. Yep. They take them, they put them in a cot. The cot's plastic, so it's much warmer than your cot at home. In WA, they've got cots with rails.
Okay.
But in Victoria, we have plastic cots.
You do.
Yeah. So they're hot, they're plastic. The mattress, I would say in WA as well. Is WA over there or there or there? I don't know. Anyhow, the mattress in WA, I would say is plastic as well. And in Ireland and everywhere else. It's
hospital's
hot.
Warm too.
And the hospital's warm too, yeah. So you've got this baby, they're well fed and they're hot, and then they just sleep. And then you swaddle them the correct way and they just sleep. And then you get them up and maybe if they don't get to the 3-hour mark, you might hold them or put your finger in or pat them but if you're in special care, they would encourage you to get to the 3-hour mark. And they don't need to be sleep trained. I hate people saying Tizzie's book is sleep training. I don't want my book to be sleep training. I want my book to be prevention of sleep problems.
Yes.
And if you use it from day one, it's going to prevent sleep problems because they're well fed, they're warm, they're loved.
And they'll enjoy sleep. I love sleep. My boys,
I love sleep.
Adults love sleep. And my boys love sleep, There's been very rare occasions where they've protested about going to bed, even at age 4. So that's from 5 months to age 4.
But your boys were
happy to go to bed because it's
warm and well fed and slept in the incubators in the hospital.
Beautiful place to be at the end of the day. Yeah.
So why do people? I don't
do
get that.
Do you think that they wait because babies are sleepy to begin with?
No, I think
and they
it's
feel
always,
like they don't need to. And
I think it's myths. I think it's myths. I think everyone hears, sleep training. No, it's not sleep training. It's prevention of sleep problems. Now, this book is prevention of sleep problems, but the feeding book is how you can use that and not use routines and stuff.
Sure.
And you can demand feed but avoid sleep problems. So people think it's sleep training and then they say to somebody, and this is why I wanted to do the podcast because I want people to understand. So then I'll say to you, how early can I sleep train my baby? I think you can probably sleep train them from 6 weeks, or you can sleep train them from 6 months, or you can sleep train them from 2 months. No. Why sleep train them? Why not treat as soon as they're born as the 4th trimester? And if they're well fed and warm, they just sleep. No sleep training needed. That's what I want to get across. So then you've got this baby in hospital, and then the nice little woman, they cocoon them and they even put a hat in them, and then you're leaving the hospital and you get told, don't overheat your baby. If you overheat your baby, it'll die of SIDS. Don't overheat your baby. Sleep them on the back. Don't overheat them. Don't put a hat on them. No, but who says no blankets?
People say no blankets.
No, but does the hospital say no blankets?
Perhaps not.
Who says it?
People, other mums, people say it.
Why?
I don't know why.
So we need to re-educate people to say no polyester.
Loose. Yeah?
No, not loose. Yeah. So no polyester blankets, no wool blankets. Wool and polyester cause problems if babies get them over their face and stuff. And so there's a website in Australia, which we're not going to mention what it's called, but there's a website in Australia and people think it's this place that you go to get safe sleep advice, but it's not. It used to be that many, many years ago.
Right.
And now it's a place that supports grieving parents when they lose children of any age. And they haven't actually done any research. I found this out because a child locally in Geelong died of SIDS or cot death. And they got really upset because they've set up their own business now to do research, to fund research, because the company that everyone thinks is this amazing research has not done research in years. People kept saying to me that you can't use blankets and you'll overheat your baby. And I thought, this is ridiculous, it doesn't sit right with me. Because when I went to the SIDS International Conference many years ago, when I was young and childless, I was so much, able to do stuff because I didn't have the kids and there was no mum's guilt. And I went to the SIDS International Conference and they taught us that if a baby is in a safe sleeping bag, this is an older baby.
Sure.
And it's on its back with a zip on the back, and they're put in their back, and then they put blankets on. They sleep on their back for longer. And if you take the blankets away, so the SIDS International Board, the International Conference, talk about, and I had at one point all of these extracts, and I used to carry them to expos, thinking that people who are misinformed and had a go at me on Facebook or websites and stuff saying you're wrong and this is wrong. I was expecting them to come and see me in person. That one did. At one expo, a lady came to me and she said, Tizzie, I'm a midwife and I'm a da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and I'm a this and I'm a that. And she had all these credentials next to her name because I have qualifications when I'm in Ireland and England. But I don't have qualifications in Australia because I don't want to, well, for a couple of reasons. I don't want to pay money to AFRA to be registered, and if you look on there, there's me listed on there anyhow, because it's quite, so it wouldn't even matter because people don't actually know my real name. And then if a lot of people say, I work 24/7. I even work on the toilet, helping mums, because this mum said my baby's crying and I need this and I need, and I don't know how to not help people. I'm changing that because I'm trying to be with my kids more. You're helping me change that. The podcast will help me change that. But so this woman came up to me and she was like, why do you keep telling people that they've got to sleep their child up to the age of 2 on their back? Since it's reduced by then. And I said to her, we're at an expo. How about we pick 100 mums now and we line them all up with their children of 18 months old, And how about you choose the one who's going to sleep on its tummy tonight and die at 18 months old? You know, and it's probably not 100, that's not the right. It might be 1 in how many thousand. But how about we line them all up and you choose that child? And she goes, oh, but it's impossible to get them to sleep on that. It's like, well, no. If you follow my world famous bedding guide, it wasn't called that at the time, it's not impossible. So this is it. So, and they sleep, and the blankets and stuff. I've gone on a bit of a tangent. So you're here to bring me back to where we were. Where are we supposed to be?
Well, we're talking about the advice given in hospital as opposed to when you go home.
Oh, so I contacted, now you've got me back to where I was, thank you very much. So I contacted this organisation that everybody talks about in Australia, and I said, I want the evidence. I want the evidence of how many babies in Australia overheat in their cots when they have the correct bedding. Oh my goodness, you should have heard the conversation with Nathan and I when we got this evidence. They sent me the evidence. How many? How many babies in Australia have died in their cots of SIDS, formerly known as cot death, in their cots in Australia from overheating?
I think I know the answer.
What?
It's none.
None.
And I only know that from you. But, none.
Right? Do you know something kind of funny but not funny? Yeah, I had a map of how many kids died everywhere, and there's more who die in Tasmania than die up in the Northern Territory. So if it's overheating, Tasmania's cold over Territory. Killian was doing a project at school. Killian's my now 11-year-old. Project at school, and they had to do a map, and they were discussing, they had to choose something like how many chocolate companies were here. He went and plugged how many deaths there were. He did this map at school. His mother's so obsessed with the company of how many, you know, it was, the teachers weren't impressed. They thought it was wrong that he knew how many. Anyway, so they said none, but we've got one case from the Netherlands, and it was a baby. And they had a baby, and they put it in a sleep sack, in a wool sleep sack, in a cot. You know those old-fashioned red rod heaters? That, like, you might be too young, but my grandparents had them.
I know them,
and they were red rods, and that was pointing at the cot, and the baby was the cot was 52 degrees, and the baby was sick, and the grandmother had put it in a cot. She'd put it in a sheepskin. She was trying to heat the bug out, and she'd put the heater. This is fact. You can get the paper off the company in Australia, in Melbourne, who everyone goes to, They got the librarian to send it to me. And the sleep sack in a cot. Well, anyway, they they'd roasted this baby. The baby didn't die from overheating. They roasted it. And in Australia, the only babies and children who've died from overheating have been in parked hot cars.
Okay.
So where does it come from?
Where does it come from?
So, the bedding guide. It teaches parents how to have their new baby warm with the correct bedding. Why teach your baby to sleep on you? And rock them in a chair and stuff. When eventually, I know it's lovely, right? I did it. You look at the photos of me in special care with my babies. I decided that from when my babies came out of my tummy, Kieran at 32 weeks, he was going to be my last. The obstetrician told me that and made him my last.
Right.
He took my one remaining tube out.
Okay.
And he's like, is that all of it? And I'm like, I can do IVF. And he goes, no, you can't. Anyway, so I decided I was going to treat those weeks in special care where I did spend time with him, and I actually had it set up that I didn't have to work.
Right.
And I just sat and I held him and I loved him and I smelled him, and he should have still been in my tummy. But I decided from the day he left hospital, so the day he left the isolate, the incubator, and came home, he was sleeping in the cot, in the cot next to our bed, mini crib. We got a little mini crib with a mattress that I got made specially because I didn't want him on a mattress that had been exposed to cigarette smoke and stuff, and mini crib with slats the whole way around. Why? I don't understand why people think, I'm going to have this baby, it's going to come out of my tummy, it's going to sleep in the crib in the hospital for a few nights, and then when I bring it home, if you want to co-sleep, that's great. Do that from day one and do that forever.
Sure.
But don't do something
if you're not going to want to keep doing it.
Because it's all well and good saying, I'm going to sleep, I'm going to rock them, I'm going to hold them, but then you're going to want to make a coffee, or you're going to want to put a load of washing on.
5 times a night. You might not want to do that 5 times a night.
Well, you see, it's not 5 times a night, because at first, because when a baby's born, which we'll talk about in another episode, they don't sleep in sleep cycles. So you might be able to hold them. But by the time they're 1 year old, it's 5 times a night.
Every time they wake up, they don't know how to get back to sleep.
And then what happens if you're pregnant with number 2? Do you continue to rock them?
Sure.
Or then do you... Well, it's actually quite interesting, because I've been watching, and I don't want to talk about bloggers or Instagrammers or whatever, or name them or whatever, but I've been watching one, and you keep telling me off. I don't even know how I came across this one. This one looked like they were going to have a pregnancy problem.
Right.
And it was similar to something that I'd had, and I got a bit emotionally involved.
Sure.
And I've noticed that their older child is like a co-sleeping and has been from day... this is my interpretation of it.
Okay.
From day one.
Right.
And now the new baby looks like it's going to sleep in a crib or a cot, but the older one... So is that what you do? Do you treat the older baby one way and continue to rock them and hold them?
Yeah.
And then do you treat the new baby...
Yeah.
But you know what? Just use... And you don't have to use the routine, but just... Maybe the routine to make sure the baby's well fed, but follow it from day one.
Sure. Yeah. I agree. I think you're mad not to. Yeah. Doesn't make any sense. Can I ask you a question further about the bedding?
Yes.
You're
here for questions.
I want to know how and why so many layers. Talk to me about the TOG and what that means for warmth and how you came about that.
The subject TOG kind of upsets me too. I'm very upset today about everything. Maybe because I had such a great holiday and I want to still be on holiday.
I wouldn't blame you. Yeah, it sounds
But so the TOG is, first of all, TOG didn't exist in Australia. So I didn't understand why TOG didn't exist in Australia. So I grew up in Ireland, then I went and studied in the United Kingdom. Then I got a job, great job, set up Save Our Sleep in the UK. Brilliant. Then I came out here backpacking, met Nathan. He was my main squeeze for a bit. Then we got married, and then we had the kids, and I've stayed. And we're supposed to be going home, and we're always supposed to be going home, and it just hasn't happened. And then we were definitely moving home September 2021, and then COVID hit, and flights got cancelled, and and I'm here. I started talking about TOG, and suddenly I started recommending sleeping bags. So I had the book, and in the book I said to use sleeping bags, and then I started recommending a certain sleeping bag, and then people in places like Kalgoorlie couldn't get the sleeping bag. Am I talking too fast, do you reckon?
No.
So people who couldn't get the sleeping bags, emailed, and then I'd go out to a baby shop who's gone, Motherworld in Geelong, and I'd buy sleeping bags, and then I'd sell them to them for the same price as I bought them for, and send them to them, and then I started wholesaling and having them, and then the online store came about, and it just grew. Okay, so there was only one sleeping bag company, Grow Bag, at the time in Australia that had TOG, so I started recommending Grow Bag and TOG. Now everyone talks about TOG. Note, at this point of the recording of this podcast, just after the Labour Day long weekend in March 2022, I'm the only person in Australia who currently sells quilts and duvets which are TOG tested. Watch this space. I guarantee you they will start appearing everywhere.
You're a pioneer.
It's like the TOG came because I talked about it, It was my claim to fame in Australia. I brought TOG here. So, TOG, how they do it is, let's say a sleeping bag.
Yes.
They get a sleeping bag, they get an iron pole, they put the iron pole inside the sleeping bag. Don't quote me if this is my interpretation of, I'm quoted, I'm on the podcast.
Yourself.
This is my interpretation of how it's done. They get the iron pole, they put the iron pole into the sleeping bag, they then see how long it takes for that iron pole to get from 42 degrees to the room temperature of 20 degrees. The length of time it takes is how they give the TOG testing. But you always ask me about why my sleeping bags are different. The TOG testing.
Yes. Well, can I say?
Yes.
One of my favourite facts is that the other sleeping bags on the market are tested before they are washed.
Yeah.
You have tested your 2.5 TOG sleeping bags before a wash, and they are 6 TOG. Am I right? After just one wash, they're down to 2.5 TOG.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem to change from there. But that is such a big difference. So these 2.5 TOGs on the market, they must come down to point something.
And girls in the support area have actually done it with a thermometer and done photos and stuff and worked out that that's true. Like they've got these other top brands and put a temperature thing in and done their home testing TOG thing. And they're like, oh my goodness, like Tizzie's 2.5, the thing comes out after 20 minutes at this temperature, and this other one, which is a 3.5, it comes out freezing cold at this temperature. Now, the thing is, you can't really do that. So officially, you can't do that. So like you can't have a sleeping bag that's 6 TOG and then take it to the CRSI or whatever it's called and get them to TOG test it and then say to them, but I want you to TOG test a washed one. They're like, but that's not how we do it. So officially, you can't do that. Like they can't take their sleeping bag there and say, I want it, what TOG test, and then I want you to tell me what it is after washing, because they say we can't give you the certificate of TOG testing on a washed garment. So I argue with them, but why? Like if I put in the washing instructions, must wash before use, and I argued. My dad reckons I should have been a lawyer. I argued the point with them till eventually they gave me a washed certificate, which was really hard to get, you know?
Yeah, right.
But then you've got the problem with quilts. Like, you don't want to wash a quilt. So when you buy a quilt, you want to buy a quilt from a duvet, one that's made in Australia. Because now here's another problem. So we get our duvets made in Australia by a company in New South Wales called Bambi. But because the packaging and stuff's made in China, it has to say made in China. But the actual thing is made and put together sometimes. Like our mattress protectors, all of the fabric and everything's made in Australia, but then when they got the workmanship done here, they fell apart. So then they have to send all the stuff that's made to China for the workmanship. So can we call it half made in Australia? You know. But anyway, with the quilt and stuff, you don't want to wash it before use. And that's where it becomes hard. So, but with the sleeping bags, because you wash them so often, you need to know. Now, so why? Do you know why the TOG changes when you wash it? Do you understand how TOG works, or will I fill people in on that?
Well, does it have to do with air? But no, you fill people in on that.
So,
no, I'm not 100% sure.
So if you get like a feather duvet, and you get it, and you've a duvet.
That's
a duvet. I'm bringing the word duvet to Australia. So duvet, quilt, doona, whatever you want to call it. If you get a feather one, and you push down on it and flatten it and TOG test it, it's going to be like, let's say, 3 TOG.
Right.
If you get the same duvet, so take my sleep bags with the toweling centre, so I've got 100% cotton, 100% cotton and 100% toweling in the centre is my 1 TOG. So if you take that and flatten it I shouldn't say this because now people only need one sleeping bag. If you take it and flatten it,
right,
okay, it'll be like 0.9 tog, and then if you shake, it's not a good example because if you shake it and shake it and shake it and shake it and shake it, it's then going to be 1.1 tog.
Okay.
Yeah, because of the air. So let's take the duvet again. Duvet.
Yes.
Duvet.
Doona.
You flatten it,
Yeah.
and it's 3 tog. You pick it up and my duvet is from Harrods because it's the only place I could find a drop duct feather. So the ducks run around and they drop the feathers and they gather the dropped feathers from an organic duck farm. Cost a fortune, but then I didn't have to pay the 16.5% VAT. And then I thought, well, do you know what? I've slept in this one for 20 years, and when I divided the sleep anyhow, I got a duck dropped. If you take it and shake 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 it, it traps all this air, and the amount of air that's trapped in a garment increases the heat, which increases the tog.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is where tog comes from. And the less air, so take the blankets, people always ask me about the blankets. So one blanket, a normal cotton blanket is 0.2 tog.
Okay.
The Save Our Sleep ones have got bamboo in them, so they're 0.6 tog. Okay. So if you were to sleep an adult under a duvet of 16 tog, that would be the equivalent to like 0.2 tog times 16. It's like 70 blankets or something, or with mine it's like 30 something blankets. Sure. You'd never put a baby under 30 blankets. But if you take the 0.6 tog blanket, now people say your blankets are pretty expensive, but then it's like, but you only need one to get 0.6 tog, you need 3 of the cheap blankets.
Sure.
But then can you take 3 cheap blankets, or can you take 3 blankets of 0.2 tog, layer them on top of each other to make 0.6 tog? No, because too much air is trapped. So you can't work out.
You can't calculate.
And do you know if the mums put the blankets on like flat in one big pile? I always lay all the blankets out, piled them up, put the sheet on them, put the baby in the cot, picked up all the blankets, boom, see you, good night, gone. I didn't put them on one at a time, because by the time you put them on one at a time, your baby's rolled to their tummy.
Yes.
If they're a big baby.
Sure.
Yeah?
Okay.
So anyway, episode number 2 was supposed to be about what? And now we've just made episode number 2 about tog. And I reckon that's it for episode number 2 is about tog, because we have